Повторяю, требую прекратить ваши противоправные действия. Домой.
Продолжаем.
Куда вы его толкаете?
Все, забрали.
Просто сказать два слова. Меня за это сейчас арестуют или нет?
Вас уже задерживают.
The Soviet Union will be pleased to offer amnesty to your wayward vassal.
The Soviet Union? I thought you guys broke up.
Yes, that's what we wanted you to think.
And speaking of that, of what not to do in the country, I picked up this quick article off a Culture Trip, and here's a couple things that you need to know if you're going to go to Russia. There's many other things on there, but this is a quick thing. A couple of quick things on there. One of the first things you got to remember when you go to Russia: drinking in public places. The Russian government has made several attempts to try to reduce excessive drinking habits of the country. There are strict regulations on the sale of alcohol, sale times for alcohol, and restrictions on where you can drink. Public places are generally off limits to alcohol, and being caught can result in dealing with the police. The ingenuity of the Russian people has, of course, led to elaborate ways of consuming alcohol, but there's always a chance of being caught and worth taking precautions. Not good. Not good at all. Failing to show identification. Here's something you hear in this country where people refuse the police to show their ID. In Russia, according to the first idea that comes to mind is the convention of showing ID when to get into a club. Here's the situation is slightly different. Russian sites often subject random ID checks, usually in crowded places such as subways, public squares, etc. What the police are looking for are migrant workers without proper permission to work. Failure to present any form of ID can result into a trip to the police station. Such checks are especially common with men, so carrying around a passport can help avoid the unnecessary trouble. This is correct, and this goes in a lot of other countries on there. I know in Thailand, don't overstay your visa. You could be arrested and fined heavily, even by hours. If you're supposed to leave and you're caught behind, you think, oh, well, I'll catch the later flight. No, leave when you're supposed to leave. If you need to stay longer, go in and get stamped for it, because you will end up in jail. And Thai prisons are not a fun place to go, and neither is a Russian prison. Playing Pokemon Go. Wow, really? This one I didn't even know. A fairly incident activity that rapidly gained popularity around the world, causing players to get into accidents and detained for trespassing. In Russia, though, a player used the game to make a statement and raised awareness for the growing influence of the church in Russia. He recorded himself playing Pokemon Go in a church in Yekaterinburg, whilst chanting religious sounds, incantations with swearing. His actions fell under the law against insulting religious freedoms, signed by Putin after Pussy Riot's trial. So catch them all, but not in the Russian churches. That's when video games are not, certain video games are not allowed. We've heard this before. Russia has banned several video games. So has Turkey and a couple other countries on there because of the content, and they think they're protecting children and all that. And this is a constant nature, and this is what you got to be careful when you're abroad. Writing letters to the government. Now, most people wouldn't do this, but you never know. You get someone from here goes over there, doesn't like something that happened over there, and they try to write a letter to the government saying how they were unhappy they were in their country. But a representative of the Open Russia movement was detained for collecting open letters to Putin from citizens of Kazakhstan. The letters were requesting that the current president not run for another term in the upcoming elections in May 2018. While she was in the progress of collecting the letters, the police took her away, after which she was sentenced to 10 days in prison. Her arrest was unexpectedly and thankfully did not affect the people who wrote the letters, but still is a warning to whoever wants to have a chat with Mr. President. Yes, that is true. Smoking in public places. Battling smoke has been a recent aim of the government, and to be frank, their efforts has been successful. Smoking is now prohibited inside restaurants, bars, and nightclubs. Same here. So most of the determined smokers huddle outside in the Russian winter to get their fill of nicotine. But the lawmakers have gone further and now have forbidden smoking in the vicinity of many public places. We have that same laws too. The public places in question are universities, hospitals, government buildings, theaters, museums, stadiums, and stations, to be train or bus. Lawbreakers are approached, but the police request them to immediately extinguish the cigarette and give them moralistic shindig. Those who ignore the rules can be easily arrested and detained up to 15 days, and a high price to pay for persistent smoking a cigarette. Now, of course, bribes is standard. You don't want to bribe in any country, including here. Painting Easter eggs. Here's a good one. As we learned from above, it's not a good idea to meddle with the feelings of the religious community. Although this arrest is not officiated under insulting religious feelings law, it did cause a public outcry. A group of Bolshevik activists, a Russian politician under arrest, decided to show their support by writing "Free Malstead" on Easter eggs. The group was later brought to trial, resulting in a fine to the group's leader, Elena Bilnova, a mild sentence, but perhaps best to refrain from deviant Easter decorations. That's right, you got to be careful how you paint your Easter eggs. Keep the politics out. As I always say, keep the politics out of the holidays. Leave it alone. This is what happened. This is the things that happen. Joining peaceful protests. Peaceful or not, any form of political outcry, be meaning a protest or just gathering, needs to be authorized. Without proper permission to hold such event is considered illegal. To be part of it, naturally, very few of these protests will receive such permission, since more than often they are aimed against the government. You've seen this from the video from last week we had, where the person was protesting and they got taken away immediately. Moreover, notifying the authorities of the upcoming meeting can undermine the event altogether. So most protests are illegal, and any participant can be taken away and arrested, especially the leaders. But even bystanders can get caught, and the police aren't too willing to listen to stories of innocence. So best place to stay clear of the event that is quite common in today's Russia. Coming out as homosexual or LGBTQ. Russia eradicated the direct law against homosexuality as far back as '93, but despite that, the stigma has remained striking harsh in Russian society, but especially by today's standards. The year 2013 brought out the anti-gay bill propaganda law that, although did not direct targeting homosexuals, has still brought a discussion that has been shown Russia into a very backward thinking of the country when it comes to sexual orientation. This law also allows for free interpretation of what is gay propaganda, leading to the rest of people holding hands or showing any form of affection in public, a disturbing reality in Russia's gay community. Yes, always be careful that if you happen to be homosexual, gay, lesbian, so be careful overseas, because a lot of the laws, I know, like even in Dubai and the United Arab Emirates, it's illegal to show that affection in those countries as well. So it's best to just be walking next to your partner, and that's about it. Don't show the affection. When you're in private, then show the affection then. That's the best thing you can do. You may not like that, but unfortunately, hey, you traveled in a country that have different laws than on. Now you know how it feels to be in an oppressed country, in a true and oppressed country. Driving without a license, that's self-explanatory itself. That happens throughout the world on there. Posting on social media. The fight against internet extremism is very real in Russia. Posting, reposting material falls under the law against public calls for extremism and stir feelings for hatred among the public, a crime very easily committed when not careful on social media, resulting in very real prison sentences. The law naturally targets main social media platforms in Russia, but of course on other platforms do not guarantee complete safety. The moral of the story: reserve your social media pages for holiday snaps and keep your opinions to yourself if you don't want to be arrested. And you got to also be careful with your holiday snaps, not in Russia but in other countries also as well. What you snap, you got to be careful then what you do. You know, and we hear social media arresting social media, making an off-color joke in the situation. I mean, the Russians take it to a different extreme, but we've seen this before, and this is what it falls into the category of censorship. I mean, Russia takes it to another level, but we have a lot of situations. We've seen it on Twitter, we see it on Facebook, we see it on YouTube. We've seen it overseas on certain YouTubers on there. We've been arrested for off-color jokes. Hello, little one. One of my executive producers has come over to say hello there. Hi, Nani. Yes, I know, it's a good girl. You've seen off-color jokes where people have been arrested for making one. I mean, this is some things that got to stop, especially with social media. I can understand, with Russia, there's nothing we could do about it in certain other countries. But in this country, we should be able to speak our piece. We should be able to say on there, when they say, well, misinformation by who? You have people who are now in charge, places like Twitter, who are pro-censorship. Do they say, well, we don't believe in free speech? It says, do you understand what free speech means? Do you understand that basically you're saying, well, we're doing it for the group of the whole? Well, that's what free speech is. If you're doing it because someone feels bad, or they're emotionally bad, or if it's someone who's like running for election and says, well, they can't say that on there because basically that will affect my election. I say, well, unfortunately, you're going to have people saying things pro and against you. And you got to be able to stand up and tell them, says, well, this is why I believe in this. And that's in this country. We've always had that. But overseas, you don't get that choice. You don't get those choices. That's why I tell when people don't like being here and they're saying, well, they got to change the Constitution, go live under those regimes for a bit. And you'll find the differences.